coming to get you, Barbara.
I am Dracula.
Red rum! Red rum!
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Dinosaur ain't no dinosaur. This is Darnish horror month.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Our daughter is dead, Laura. She does not come peeping with messages back from the fucking grave. Christine is dead. She's dead. Dead, 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 dead.
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday, I'm Lewis.
And I'm Branden.
And we are here to talk about movies. Each week, Branden and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. This week, I picked a film I've been avoiding due to its themes for the last few years. But as it is our Darnish horror month, I decided it was time to face my fears and watch Don't Look Now from 1973, directed by Nicholas Rogan, starring Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. If you want to hear us talk about this in depth, then stay tuned. It will be at about the 15-20 minute mark where we do our big deep dive, so stick around for that. And obviously at the end of the episode, Branden will be telling us what we'll be watching for next week's Film Church. So yeah, listen all the way through and you'll find out before anybody else. Before we jump into talking all things movies, we would like to thank everyone who's been listening and sending their love for the show. If you've been listening for a while, you should know that we really appreciate you. And, you know, anyone that you tell or anyone that you get to listen to the show means a lot, means that, you know, it bumps us up, people can find us easier, all that good stuff. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio. Where you can leave us a comment or send a message about the show. We've got some extra stuff over on our YouTube channel. And yeah, we are pretty active. So if you send us a message, we will see it. We will reply to it. We'll, you know, talk to you about movies. That's what we like to do. So go and do it. Before we discuss the film, Don't Look Now, we'd like to talk about what else we've been watching this week. Or from the last few weeks, because we have recorded enough that we could take a mini vacation. So Branden and I both went off and did some stuff. Branden did some filmy things, which I'm hoping he's going to talk about in this section, because it's awesome. So no pressure, Branden, but I'm passing it over to you.
All right. Let us try FaceTime. Because this is not great.
Okay, I'll call you.
It's like, yeah, just call me.
Okay, will do.
All right, bye. Yeah, so this is going to feel a little weird to redo all this. Yeah, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty here, and I just went through this long explanation of everything that's been going on. So now I'm going to try to do it all again for you guys. First thing is Lewis and I have not recorded in like a month. Because we got caught up on our episodes so we could take a little bit of a break. So lots has happened. Lots of movies have been watched and fun times have been had. And I've also missed recording, so it's nice to be back.
Same. Yeah. Feel comfortable.
Right back where we belong. Yeah, so... something that I did recently, if you want to go back and listen to our Metropolis episode, that was earlier, I guess that was back in May. And I had picked the film because a local old movie theater here in Houston, the River Oaks Theater, was putting on an event where they're showing or where they showed the film Metropolis from 1927, and then they also put on a short film competition because the film Metropolis is now in the public domain, which means that you can use footage from the movie without running into any copyright issues. So the competition they put on was you send in a short film that is 3 minutes or less, and it has to have 10% of the film has to have footage from the movie, which if your short is 3 minutes, that means you got to use 30 seconds of footage from Metropolis in your film. So,
and there was no other parameters. It was just the 30 seconds, and then in the 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it could be comedy, it could be horror, it could be, it could literally be just, in the background of the film. So, it was kind of exciting. I love old movie theaters. Like, I've worked in 3 movie theaters now, and I feel very at home in movie theaters. Film Church Radio. I mean, the Film Church part of Film Church Radio is a movie theater. Like, that's what a film church is to us. It's the cinema experience. So I really wanted to kind of be a part of this and at least, send something in. And I've been toying around with different ideas for a while, and finally kind of came up with something and waited like the last day of the competition to actually like make it and send it in. But long story short, I got accepted, and they screened my film along with 3 other filmmakers' films. So they showed all 4 of our films before the movie, and then they had they passed out ballots, so there was like an audience. The audience voted on their favorite, so then there was an audience award. But they showed our films, and then they showed the film Metropolis with a live score or live original score by a local musician who goes by Vincent Priceless. So you can check him out if you want to look him up. And then after the film, they announced who won. My friend Eli Fisher was the winner, and you can check him out on Instagram at not Eli Fisher. It was a lot of fun. I'm actually going to be working with Eli on a short coming up soon called The Chief, the Warrior, and the Renegade, where he's filming it and I'm running sound. That's going to be in the same kind of sci-fi universe that the short that I acted in is set in. And we had the director of that film on the AI artificial intelligence episode, if you want to go check that out. So that's 2 episodes for you guys to go listen to in relation to all of this, AI, artificial intelligence, and Metropolis. It was a lot of fun. Like, it was really cool. It's a completely different experience. Like, it's fun to make stuff and to put it out there for people, but like when you get to go somewhere, especially like a theater setting like this, where you're showing something you've made to an audience, especially when you don't know anyone in the audience. I mean, there was a few people there, like, Sarah was there, and her 2 of her sisters were there, and her brother, and then a couple of my work friends came and stuff. But other than that, I mean, it's mostly just people I don't know, and that don't know me. You know what I mean? So there's no preconceived like, oh yeah, or we know this guy and he made this thing, and we're rooting for him because we know him, kind of a thing. It's like, no, they don't know you, and they're just reacting based on what you created. And the reaction from the audience when my film was on was so reassuring. You know what I mean? It's like you immediately can tell, like, if you know what you're doing. And it was clear that like I made something that people liked. And that's freaking cool. So if you want to go see it, it's called Dance Dance Metropolis. It's on my YouTube channel at Sutherland Scope, or I also posted it on Instagram, and it's at the Sutherland Scope on Instagram. But I mean, it's less than 3 minutes. It's literally like 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So doesn't take too much time if you want to see something I made. Also had fun making a little poster for it. Yeah, but it was, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I want to be doing, dude. Like,
Yeah. It felt good to flex those artistic muscles.
yes.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it like, I don't know. The longer you go without making something, you know, it's easy to kind of be like, should I give this up? But then as soon as you make something and put it out there again, you realize, oh, this is why I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
awesome.
Eli's film is also out there on his YouTube channel. And I'm not sure if the other filmmakers have theirs up yet, but you can find all of them. If you go follow the River Oaks Instagram, you can find everybody, all the filmmakers' channels and stuff. River Oaks is Friends of River Oaks Theater on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was super fun. And then obviously getting to watch Metropolis again with an audience, with a live score.
Yeah.
And it was outdoors, and it like you could see the Houston skyline.
Yeah.
With all the lights of the the metropolis of Houston. It was super cool, man.
That's
was
awesome.
Super fun.
Yeah. I haven't seen that many silent films on like the big screen. We haven't seen Nosferatu. The most memorable, I went to see Wings, which is the film that won the first Academy Award for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Went to see it in the Alamo, or at the Alamo, not in the Alamo. And it was like, I think I was the only person in. It was like a Sunday, like mid-morning show, and it was great.
Yeah.
I like sat in the middle and like had the screen kind of like eclipse me, and I was just like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So if you do get a chance to go and see them, I mean, I think Silent Movie Day is right around the corner, and they like to do a lot of like screenings for silent films in local areas. So if you're tempted, you should definitely do it.
Could we just put on a silent film festival, like, because
Yeah.
it like for all the films that are like over 100 years old, I guess you wouldn't have to pay any kind of fees
Yeah, I
to the
guess.
studios,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I guess.
Is
Yeah.
that we need a lawyer? If anybody,
Is a
anybody
lawyer,
out
yeah.
there is a lawyer that wants to get involved in film stuff, hit us up, because
And-
we want to put on some film church events.
Yeah, definitely. And Silent Movie Day is September 29th. So
Oh, we passed.
keep a lookout for it. Oh, no, it has passed. We're in October. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this is a
Happy
blur.
Silent
Yeah, it's gone.
Film Day.
Forget it. I'm talking about next year, folks. September 29th, 2024. Keep a lookout. You can tell we haven't done this for a while. We're very rusty.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't even know
It's
what
okay.
date it is.
What year is it? I always think of that from
Jumanji.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. How did you know? I think we're the same age. That's probably why.
Yeah.
What year is it? It's 1995. Remember? So yeah. That other than that, I watched Horrible Bosses from 2011. Never seen it. Miss these comedies. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
It's also a little dated. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Like, there's a whole sexual assault
Yeah.
comedy part of it, which is like, I mean, the only way they could do it was to make it a woman,
Yes.
doing all the sexual
Yeah.
assault. But still, it's like, okay, like, we need to like reevaluate how we see these things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still funny.
Yeah.
I had a good time watching it. It's a good movie. And then I also watched The Machine from this year, the Burt Kreischer film. Also has Mark Hamill in it.
Nice.
I don't know.
No, not so nice.
I think you've got to be. I mean, I like Bert Kreischer stuff. I'm like a casual watcher. I've watched a few of his stand-ups, and I've listened to some of his podcasts, like episodes with people they're interviewing, people I'm interested in, like Quentin Tarantino or Kevin Smith. Other than that, I don't really.
No.
I'm not like. I don't know all about Bert Kreischer's life or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is for people who. This movie is for his audience, which makes sense. It's for the people who know all of his comedy, know the story of the Machine, which is one of his stand-up bits that he does like at every one of his shows. And for those people, they might really love it. It's not a terrible movie. There's parts of the movie that I laughed a lot at, which is good. It's got a couple of big laughs and
for a comedy.
For a comedy, and then one moment in particular that I really, really loved, and when they had this moment, I was like, why isn't the rest of the movie like this? Like, it's so over the top violent.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, yeah, let's go there. But it was just that one,
just a blip.
Moment.
Didn't like come back again.
Yeah, I mean it's a big blip because it goes. It's like it goes on because it's a whole part of the comedy. But I was like, okay, if you're gonna go there, like keep like
ramp it up.
Like, I don't know. I've got more opinion. I don't like saying bad things about movies. Obviously, like it. People work on these things and they're hard to make. But it just left me wanting it to be a little like I wanted John Wick starring Bert Kreischer. Yeah, yeah. And it goes there a little bit, but then it also tries to make it realistic, and it's like this isn't. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Am I making any sense to anyone?
You are. Yeah, you're making sense.
Might be a good afternoon watch.
I'm not familiar with his comedy at all. I don't think I've seen. I've seen him interviewing people on like TikTok and stuff, but I've not been aware of him as a comedian. So I think if I just turned it on, I think I'd be like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with this stand-up is like you can, and with most stand-up is like you don't necessarily have to be a fan to watch people stand up. Because a stand-up routine it's a whole piece. Like you can enjoy it because they explain everything. You know what I mean? But with this movie, you kind of have to be a fan to get it. Yeah. Or to like really enjoy it, I think. So, and you definitely wouldn't understand it if you didn't already know his Machine bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's like this guy with a big beer belly, and he like does his whole show without his shirt on. So then like the climax of the movie is like, and he like drinks on stage too, so he's kind of like, just like this persona of a big beer belly drunk guy. Yeah. and so like the climax of the movie, okay, spoilers for anybody that wants to watch this movie that hasn't watched it yet. It's out on Netflix now. Spoilers. The climax of the movie is like him going full tilt, taking his shirt off and like drinking like a bottle of liquor, like tequila or something, and then just like going John Wick on all the people attacking him and his father.
You can hear the pause in the film for the audience to be cheering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
okay. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, cool. If you see it on my letterbox soon, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, I can tell you have absolutely no interest in watching this movie.
I have my own beer belly. I don't need to see anybody else's.
I can drink and beat up people on my own.
Yeah.
So what What are you interested in watching? What have you been watching?
I've been leaning pretty much full tilt into the horror month, as we are in October, Lewis, not September anymore, October. I've been trying to get through some of the horror films, revisit a few that I really like, that kind of thing. And with Don't Look Now, especially, it was released in England, I know definitely, I don't know around the world, but it was released as a double bill with The Wicker Man from 1973, which I've also heard of. So I watched that on night A, and then I watched Don't Look Now night B to kind of give myself a facsimile to the double bill. The Wicker Man is bloody brilliant. I had such a good time with it. It's like B horror kind of setup, but it's got a really good execution, and Christopher Lee's in it, which always helps elevate stuff. And it's just like a really interesting and like fun movie. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. I'm not really sure why. I kind of just went into it like I want to see this double bill as it was like intended, and it was great. It was so good. It got remade with Nicolas Cage. I didn't.
Yeah,
watch
I
that
do
one.
remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's really good. So I would recommend going to see it if you are so inclined, and if it's anywhere near you.
Well, I mean, after watching Don't Look Now, I think I definitely would want to watch it.
Yeah, I think it's on Shudder. I watched it on Shudder. So it's if you've got that subscription or you want to sign up for a free trial, it's on there.
Nice.
So yeah, Wicker Man is really good. And then I watched Christine from 1983, directed by John Carpenter. And I know that last year we did The Fog, which I've been wanting to go back and watch as well. Christine is based on a Stephen King novel about a car that kills people or possesses people, I guess. It's like this car like takes over their persona a little bit.
Right.
And it's really fun. There's some really cool shots in there. John Carpenter is really good at kind of giving you. I know that when we talked about The Fog, I was talking about the like sailors coming in and how they looked really great. He's got a good eye for like the visual. You know, Halloween is the same way. You know, Michael Myers standing on it. It looks great, and the same here. It's like a red. I'm not sure what kind of car it is. Maybe a Buick. I don't know, but it's like a red old American kind of sports car.
Got a lot of personality.
Yes, and there's one bit where it's like chasing someone around and it's on fire, and I was like,
okay,
this is cool. Like I'm gonna, I'm gonna let my male head like take over. Like this is awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think I'm a really big fan of John Carpenter now. I don't think I've ever I've appreciated him as a director because Halloween's always been up there, but now I feel like I really get him as a filmmaker. His movies are really, really fun. And, if you put them on with an audience especially, you're going to have a good time. And this is no different. Reminded me a lot of Carrie. Same kind of filmmaking and, like, storyline, I guess, Not that there's a car in Carrie, but the same themes of
but
high school bullying and stuff like that.
Yeah. Nice.
So make a really good double bill with Carrie.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like John Carpenter is hit and miss for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize his brilliance, obviously, but
I
don't know. After you see The Thing, it's like I feel like I just want everything to be that good.
I know. I really try and separate myself when I do watch stuff like The Fog and this from The Thing and Halloween, because they are so good and so tight, and you've got, I don't know, the two sides of the spectrum. Halloween is like this low budget that kind of took off, and The Thing is slightly larger with like a known male, like leading man and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. I just have a really good time with his movies.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. I should just watch his films and try to detach myself from.
It is hard though, because especially if you've got some. I mean, going back to, I never thought that we would link John Carpenter to The Machine, but you go to see people's films for them. And if you, like you said, if you are a fan of The Thing, you're expecting at least, some kind of, I don't know, relevancy to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard to kind of separate. But there seems to be two sides of him, I think, for me. The schlocky kind of popcorn horror, and then the more highbrow stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, so that was it. And I've took 2 off my to-watch list for horror films, because normally I figured out that like during the other 11 months of the year, I don't watch like a ton of horror films.
Yeah.
Like I watch a few here and there, but not like religiously. So this month I'm like, okay, I'm going to at least pick films that have got, themes that are similar.
It seems like, does it seem like to you that more and more people are doing like the 30 months of horror or 30 days of horror or whatever?
Yeah, I'm seeing it a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much, especially, I feel like recently, the last few years, we've had a lot of like horror films in cinemas as well. I know there's always been a lot of horror films, but like a lot that have kind of gone past, just the standard 4 to 6 week theatre run.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of, I mean, it's what's been kind of keeping cinemas open the last couple of years, it seems like, in the off months. Yeah.
Horror films are great.
Yeah. Well, I need to watch more because I've like been watching comedies and dramas this month. Like I really haven't, except for, Film Church stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to try and fit in The Exorcist. It's the 50th anniversary this year, so got to try and celebrate that somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, let's move on to our feature presentation, talking of horror movies that we wanted to watch. Our feature presentation this week is Don't Look Now from 1973. The letterbox summary is Past the Warning. Laura and John, grieved by a terrible loss, meet in Venice, where John is in charge of the restoration of a church. 2 mysterious sisters, one of whom gives them a message sent from the afterlife. I have an opening question for you this week, Brandon, because normally we kind of just be like, well, what did you think? But watching this, I know that we had a conversation a while ago about horror, especially from like old people and like, the gross out horror aspect of stuff. And to me, I think that this was kind of similar to that, especially with like the blind woman. There was like a lot of close-ups of her face, and like, it's supposed to kind of, that was the main source of like horror, like fear really in the film.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start off by asking, like, how did you feel about that? Like, was this something that you noticed, and did it kind of turn you off it a little bit, or do you think that it kind of worked for the film?
I think it kind of worked for the film. I didn't really get I know what you're talking about. I think because I went on a rant like sometime earlier this year talking about X.
Yes.
And what was the other film? The one with Justin Long.
Yes. I can't. What was that called?
What the heck was the movie? It was like so big this year.
Yeah.
Oh my God. With the underground tunnel thing.
Yes.
With Justin Long.
I'm searching.
Which was less of a that was less of like an old person being scary and gross, and more of, I mean, I guess she was a little bit older, but it was more of like a person who had been like enslaved and locked up or whatever, but it was still, it was like the I don't know. It's like this idea of like an aged female body being the source of like horror.
Yeah.
And it seems like a fucked up thing to just exploit in some way, to try to tap into that. And because I mean, there probably is something that I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to be a little PC, I guess, but obviously some people are grossed out by old people's bodies.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to change that perception that people have and be like, no, it's just a body.
Yeah.
And they're just old. Like, there's nothing gross about it. They exploit it and turn it into like and heighten it even more and and try to make it like, no, it is scary, like, and now we're gonna make it even scarier with mood lighting and music and torture you in this horror film and reiterate that idea that you have, especially with X, because it was like, as the film was going on, I was like bothered by that idea, and then the climax of the horror in that film is like two old people having sex, and it's like, come on, y'all, like, old people have sex, like, it's not like, you just think it's gross because you're a young person, but like when you get old, you're still gonna have sex.
There's our audio clip for this episode.
Like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it seems a little disconnected from reality, like, and like a lot of like horror films are targeted to teenage audiences, but I don't know, it's like, I don't know, like, I guess my, like, the thing is, like, if you can, I'm not saying that to just like don't make films like that. I'm just like saying like I don't know. I just want people to think about what's going on, I guess, and like I understand that. I just want it to be done in the spirit of fun and not in the spirit of like making old people feel less than. Because of their age. I don't like ageism.
No.
Except when it comes to the presidency. Or like politics. Get those people out of there. But I didn't feel that way in this film, except for the end. But the blind lady, like, I didn't feel that way. It was disturbing when she's like supposed to be communicating with the child and she's like rubbing her boobs and saying yes. That was super disturbing. Because it was just the fact that she was like being sexual. It wasn't the fact that like her being sexual wasn't disturbing. It was the context of why she was being sexual. The context of being sexual while she's communicating with the dead. That was disturbing. And not only the dead, but it's like a dead child. But it wasn't like, ooh, this lady is older and being sexual, you know? But the ladies were creepy, and yes, they are the source of the creepiness. But it was more of just like this haunting presence, especially when they intercut the clips of like them laughing and stuff. And then there's just like the shot of them like looking at pictures and laughing. And it's just like it's very like creepy and a disturbing. It's unsettling. The whole movie is like unsettling. It's the tone of it.
Creepy. I think that, I was a bit worried as to where it was going. I think that the ending, I mean, for him to chase someone through the streets of Venice, they need to be small in stature to resemble his daughter. But she is credited, the killer at the end, as dwarf. Which is like,
okay. I mean, it's like, it's the 70s. Like that was just like, I don't think it was taboo to say, to call small people dwarfs.
No. But it wasn't when the ending happens. You are like, what the hell is happening now?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the thing with the end is like, obviously spoilers
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the film, but come on, it's been 50 years. You've had time. You know it's coming. You know
Yeah.
it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier to, not that I didn't enjoy this film on the first watch, but, watching it again, you can kind of enjoy it a little more, I think, because it's not really about the end. The end doesn't matter.
No.
But on the first watch, I did kind of want something a little more, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I thought was actually going to happen was that I was going to realize that the Sixth Sense was a ripoff of this movie. That's what I thought was going to happen, because because he has the close encounter with death, where he almost falls to his death, right?
Yeah.
And then he decides to leave Venice, and then on the boat out, he sees his wife. And at that moment, I was like, oh, he did die. He did fall to his death. He just thinks he's still alive.
Yeah.
But then all the interactions he's having, he's like actually talking to people and they're answering him. And I was like, I don't know what's going on exactly. But I was sort of right in terms of like, he saw his wife but he's seeing her in the future.
Yeah.
Because he's shining.
Yeah.
And, so like, I don't know. I just the movie is so the movie feels so clever in ways. Like it feels like a masterful piece, and I love the filmmaking style.
Yeah,
I feel like we don't get to see a lot of this kind of technique anymore, where everything is sort of linear but sort of not, and you're intercutting in interesting ways to create this sense of delusion, I guess, or this sense of not necessarily feeling lost, but just, I don't know, an
Adrift.
overall, in some way, like it feels very impressionistic, I guess.
Yeah.
Might be the right word. But so it all feels like it's there's some kind of like overall meaning being created and overall underlying themes and stuff. But then the ending, I don't know if it quite stuck the landing for me. And maybe I just need to watch it a few more times, but it felt a little like we know he's gonna die. We know he's gonna die. But then I don't know, but then he just dies and you're like, yeah, he died.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then the shot at the end with Julie Christie where she's on the, they're going to the funeral on the boats and stuff. She's not that mournful.
No.
But I was reading, she doesn't, she is mournful. It's not that she's not mournful. Like she does look like she's grieving, but she's, there's like an acceptance there.
Yeah.
And her, and the way that she looks, like she's not, it's like she's already accepted it, and she's already, there's almost some kind of joy. And I don't know if joy is the right word, but she's accepted it. And I was reading some of the behind the scenes stuff, and I think that was something the director was going for, because she at this point knows that her husband and her daughter are together.
Yeah. Yeah, which, yeah, I mean, if you've got someone telling you that they can speak to each other and that they're still there, I mean, that is the point of religion, isn't it? To bring you comfort in those hours of need, is to think that there is somewhere after this where people go and, are together. And surprise, surprise, the religious aspect of the film is the thing that I find most interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of things in there that are very challenging. I mean, there's the most opposite of people. I mean, Julie Christie is like believing in psychics. She says to the vicar that she believes in something, she's not really that religious. Whereas Donald Sutherland, not that he talks about, he's very well versed in kind of Christian or religious practices, and he's also restoring a church. He's helping build the house of God, and it also shows in their ways that they're dealing with this death. Like he is trying to kind of not think about it and avoid it and move on, and she's like kind of dwelling in it to his, to his viewpoint. But yeah, I mean, I think that is super interesting because he has got like a sixth sense. The first scene of the film, he feels that something is wrong and runs out of the house. And then later on, like you said, he sees his Julie Christie in the future. He's kind of always aware that things are happening around him. But maybe if he'd kind of given into those and been to see Heather and Wendy, he would have survived,
Yeah.
And he would have been able to talk. It's very kind of conflicting. It doesn't offer any kind of answers to it either. Because as he's the one that's painted as the more religious, you would expect him to be the one that survives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's not the case.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of questions that get raised. I mean, I feel bad having picked it for the horror month because I don't necessarily think it's a horror.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily think it was either. It's more of like a mystery thriller, but but other people consider it like a huge influence on horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. What is horror?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, that's it, isn't it? What is horror? It's not something that can be really defined.
It's people.
I mean, it's so well thought of. I mean, it's been ranked as number 8 on the list, on BFI's list of the top 100 British films. A lot of people think it's the best English film ever made.
Wow.
There's a lot of kind of, I don't know, like support for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's reached that. It hasn't reached that level for me yet. I'm not going to pussyfoot around it.
But I mean, you've just seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it had mixed reviews when it first came out too.
Mm.
It's like it's taken time for it to kind of reach that level in, I think, people's consciousness.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that having a daughter, like I said, has been the main reason why I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't really want to face these themes and questions that are being presented here, and I'm quite glad I wasn't really, I watched it with my wife, which I was a bit kind of, I said to her before I started, I was like, hey, if this gets a bit too much, we can turn it off and, I'll watch it later kind of thing. But I don't think neither of us were that affected by it.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I don't know whether it's so dramatic, that scene, that it's kind of, that you're watching a film, it's kind of that we see him kind of run into the lake and then all of a sudden it seems to be, he's like isolated, the lights around, like it's dark around him, it's shot from above in slow motion, it was shot
in a studio too,
yeah,
in a tank, in a pool or in a tank because they couldn't get the kid. They tried several different kids to actually do the scene in the pond, but the kids would not, they would not could be submerged. They would, because they would practice in pools and stuff, and they'd be fine. And then they tried doing it at the pond, and all the kids that could do it at the pool could not do it at the pond because it was like, it's a creepy pond.
Yeah, it's a creepy pond. Yeah, and but yeah, I wasn't sitting there like, oh my god, all the way through. I think the bit that kind of got me a little bit was just when she was in the bathroom with the sisters, and they're like, she wants to tell you that she's okay, or whatever they said, and I was like, okay, that would be the bit that would like destroy me.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just desensitized to deaths on screen now. I mean, we've seen a lot,
possibly.
Yeah,
but also, I think it is easier to maybe separate yourself from this style of film because it is so apparent that the filmmakers are that there's somebody telling a story.
Yeah.
Like it's not realism. It's like it's just apparent that like you're being fed something or you're being something is being delivered to you.
Yeah.
And a story is being told because it's like so much intercutting and stuff, which I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But I would assume that technique is easier to separate yourself from reality.
Yeah. I think it's easier too as well because they grieve the loss of their daughter by leaving their other child back in England. Which to me, I'm just like, that seems like such a bizarre choice to make. It's just kind of, oh my God, we've lost one child. We're going to go away from the other.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, this is the questions that it raised. Like, are they good parents?
Yeah.
Is this are they feeling guilty about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, because they don't seem very parent.
No, they don't seem very nice to each other.
Yeah,
it's not. We're not looking
guess.
at like a happy marriage that is being, kind of torn down by this thing. I think that everything that we see within this marriage kind of has already been there. They're not very.
Well, it doesn't really feel like a marriage that's lived in either.
No.
And that's not to say that like that's a bad thing, but it's just an observation. Like the actors are great.
Yes,
like I really enjoyed all the actors, especially Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. But their marriage doesn't feel lived in.
No,
and they don't seem. I was gonna say that Julie Christie really doesn't seem like a mother figure, but I guess they both really don't seem like paternal figures.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe this is just a different time as well.
I guess, that too. But like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird.
The whole reason, because I listened to the commentary, I watched it again with the commentary to try and like just get a little bit more from it, and the director said the whole point of the famous sex scene now was to offer just a glimmer of hope in this film, because he was like, up until this point they've just been either arguing or grieving. He's like, there's just no intimacy between them at all. So they added this scene in, which has become very famous since for its like realism and stuff. But they added that in to kind of show like these are like people in love, and
right.
He said, it even hints that they're ready to try for another child.
Yeah.
Just in the kind of most basic representation of sex.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the big dilemma for me, is it doesn't give you anyone to kind of grip onto. The first half of the film, we kind of focus more on Julie Christie and her journey, and then all of a sudden we kind of seem to switch to Donald Sutherland, who's been, a bit of an alien character up until this point. He hasn't done a lot apart from pull, the girl out of the lake, and then he's working on the church, and then it's kind of his story for the second half.
Yeah.
So the whole way through, you just kind of you're turning corners and it's dead ends, and you're having to kind of turn back and go a different way, and you never quite feel that in it. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
think
it's
it
just a
wants you to
style
be
of-
away. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a style that, like, I think, I don't know what to compare it to necessarily, but I feel like it is a rare kind of
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
movie and style.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed. Like, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would watch it again for sure. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot to learn from it in terms of filmmaking techniques and stuff too.
Yeah.
The sex scene is really awesome.
Yeah.
Not just because it's sex, but like the way that it's portrayed. I don't know. It does feel very real.
Yeah.
And the way that he intercuts, like after.
Yeah.
After the sex stuff, like them
Yeah.
getting dressed, and then like I don't know, like the shot of Donald Sutherland like sitting down and like having a little sip of whiskey or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and like, I don't know, it's just very like you get the sense that these people are in love,
Yeah.
and again, it's not like the sex scenes. Like the actual shots of them making love. It's more of like the shots after.
Yeah.
Like the reactions on their faces after.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's like, it's very almost innocent in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. It's very like pure.
Yeah. Well, it prolongs the intimacy, doesn't it? I mean, so many films that we watch, the point of, the end, the big finale is kind of the end of the intimacy. When we watch a film, that's kind of where that scene ends. Whereas here, it's because it's intercut and we keep, jumping back and forth. It shows that it's not just about sex. It's kind of something that stretches out into post. They're very warm to each other after that. And they're kind of, I don't know, wallowing in the glow of coitus.
But do you think that scene is kind of just a mini version of the whole movie? Because it's the whole movie doing the same thing, where it's not really about the end. It's about, throughout the movie, you're seeing the ending. I mean, like the very beginning of the movie, he looks at the picture of the church. He sees the Red Hood person.
Yeah.
He spills the water, and then the blood from the picture, the red from the the hood in the picture bleeds over to the rest of the picture, and that's like the end of the movie. Like, it's all
everything's leading to that point.
Yeah, it's just a refreshing style of filmmaking when you're so used to like these very linear, like, like just this very basic story structure of like the intro, and then you have the inciting incident, and then you have escalating tension, and then you have the climax and the resolution. It's just like it gets so. I don't know. Every movie is like that. It's nice to watch a movie that's like, nah, this is all fractured.
Yeah.
But still telling a whole story, and it's about, the movie is more of a photograph than it is a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like you can get so much more from understanding these people and their lives from the photograph than you can, just going in all the details of the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I definitely think there's a reason why it's so well regarded. I think it's because it's more complex than just a linear story. There's more to it. It's more about emotions and feelings, and I think that it doesn't try to explain the characters to you. You're never sitting there with it kind of, Donald Sutherland is like, the reason that I'm trying to move on is because my father was really heavy-handed, or anything like that. It's these characters are just who they are. We don't necessarily have to I mean, the only possible explanation is that she's American and he's English, or the other way around. He's American, she's English.
Right. Yeah.
So that, you know, they speak the same language, but they're two completely different cultures. That is like the only thing as to why these people are behaving differently.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, they have a lot of really great scenes.
Yes, they do.
I really like the scene where he's like been drinking, and she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna be sick, are you?" And he's like, "I am not going to be sick." And then like she just keeps nagging at him, and he's like, "I'm gonna be sick." And then like the scene, the scene where she's just like, you know, she's alive.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you know, he like kind of snaps and tells her to take her pills and stuff like that. I don't know. They really are good actors.
Yeah.
Those scenes are really good.
Yeah. I agreed. Yeah, Donald Sutherland is someone that I don't think I've been super acquainted with before. I've never kind of watched, especially, you know, the 70s stuff. I've seen Clue, but I've not seen, you know, a huge amount. And I think that, you know, the first time you watch it, there is that air, the same as every film, there's that air of mystery where, you know, when he thinks he sees Laura, we're not sure if she's back yet or not. You know, we haven't since she's left, we haven't seen anything until she calls. You know, it's the kind of the same thing. But then after the second watch, you see it from like him losing his mind a little bit and starting to kind of unravel and, you know, show how he's dealing with the grief, which is trying to suppress it. It's not working, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's just the more you watch it, the more it's going to make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I think it's the same thing with like The Shining.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much more to the movie than what's being presented on the surface.
Yeah, definitely.
And everybody in this movie is shining.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think a movie has ramped up so quickly in such a short amount of time, you know, because the first time you watch it, the middle hour-ish can be pretty dull. You know, they're just kind of talking a lot and just like wandering out. Apart from him falling off the scaffolding, there's not a lot of action. But then when that final 10, 15 minutes starts happening, like already the tension's there. It's been built kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know? So when he starts like chasing who he thinks is his daughter through the canal, you know, the streets and stuff, you're already like, oh my God, he's going to die. Yeah. Like you said, it's inevitable. You just know it's going to happen. And I think that's something that as a director, you could work for years and not be able to achieve this.
Yeah.
Which I think is where the mastery lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, the end was just, you know, I don't know. It's just like when she turns around at the end and it, you know, you realize it's like a little lady.
Yeah.
And she's older and you're supposed to be like, you know, it's like, I mean, I don't know. That's what it felt like you're supposed to be doing.
I think
you're
you're definitely supposed to be like, as unnerved as you are to that point, that's supposed to be, I think, the tipping point.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. Like, you could have just made it like, I don't know. When you said all the stuff about the religious parallels, like, why couldn't it be someone that looked like Jesus or something?
Yeah,
like Christ figure or
I know.
I don't know.
The priest, the bishop.
Could have been the bishop. Yeah, maybe he's the murderer.
Yeah,
that would have been cool. I don't know. A little twist.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she's, you know, that the actress that played that part, she was a working actress and she took the role and got paid. So
Yeah.
I'm sure she's not complaining about it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like I said before, you know, if you want to be believable, if you saw, you know, a middle-aged man running around in a red coat, you'd be like, okay, that's not your daughter. You know, there has to be someone that is believable. It just so happens that this person has also been killing people in Venice at the same time. You know,
just like, I don't know.
But
what's that story? Like, make a whole movie following her around.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, the inevitability of life. Sometimes things just happen and take you to certain places that when you look back on, you're like, you know, I wouldn't have got here if it wasn't for A, B, and C. And it's the same here. Like, he was meant to end up in that deserted house being stabbed by her. You know, so to get there, his daughter had to die, and they had to go there, and then he had to, like, you know, see her kind of on the streets and stuff like that. So,
if his daughter just hadn't have been wearing a red jacket, then he might not have followed that lady around.
Yeah, everything's there for a reason. Anything else that you'd like to add, Branden, before we wrap this up?
I think I might have hit everything. Just looking at my notes.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that it was based on a Daphne du Maurier story, who Hitchcock worked with a lot, or adapted a lot of her work, I should say.
Oh, really? Like what?
The Birds, Rebecca. Okay. I think no, not Strangers on Train. Was that Patricia Highsmith? I'm not sure, but yeah, a few times. And she wrote a letter to the director Nicholas Roeg after seeing the film, saying that he made such a strong film, like congratulating him on it. So, big thumbs up from her, which was good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a very interesting film. I think I'll watch it a few more times. The first time I watched it, like the phone conversation, both of the phone conversations, I was like, it feels like terrible editing at first, but then you're like, is this? But then you realize like it's a part of the disoriented state you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
Like be in.
Yeah.
I think. And then the other question I have is like, what was that police officer drawing?
Yeah.
He's like, there's a part where it cuts and he's drawing and it's like a picture of like someone's face, but it's like demonic looking.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
But, yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Just enough to give you the creeps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, let's guess what the other person rated the film on Letterboxd. Brandonian. I think you rated this 4.5.
I think you rated it 4.
I originally rated it 3.5, and then on the rewatch, I bumped it up to 4.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Dang, bro.
Yeah.
I rated it 4.
Cool. Okay, so we're about at the same level.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say this at the beginning because I kind of alluded to it, I think. But watching The Wicker Man first, and The Wicker Man is such a satisfying film in terms of at the end, everything makes sense.
Right.
And it's like, it's not satisfying in the way that it ends, but it's satisfying in like, yes, I understood that. I knew what was happening. Like, this is a very well-made film. And this is not like that. And I think kind of coming onto this again, I was left with like, what the hell just happened? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? You know.
Do you think? Does it make sense to you that Edgar Wright loves this movie?
I think when you watch Last Night in Soho, there's kind of some definite kind of inspiration there.
Okay.
You can see it through some of his films, yeah, for sure. But yeah. I think I really need to read some like in-depth critical analysis of it to really, I feel kind of, you know, find out why it's... Because I think it's a good movie, but like the best British film ever made.
Do you think that... I don't know. I've never been one... I've never been like one to be into reading film criticism.
Yes.
Like I've done, I have a film degree, so I did a bit of it, but I probably wouldn't have if not for going to film school.
Yeah.
So I'm never like, I always just, I don't know. I always want to just take in films for myself and try to figure out what I think about them before, especially before I read anybody else's work. But like, do you think, or anybody else's interpretation of it? But like, do you think that I don't know, is that important? Like, I mean, it must be. It must like film criticism must be a big important piece to keep films around, because otherwise films might not be around.
Yeah.
Or stay around. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think that it is. I think especially, the older films that we look at, when we look at, this is 50 years old, right? So if you went to see this in the cinema, which neither of us were able to do because it was 50 years ago, who knows what was happening in the world at that point with you going into this cinema to, the baggage that you're carrying to watch this film. Yeah. So when I read criticism, especially at the time, I try to pick up a feeling for, they might allude to things that are happening at the time, or other films, or, I don't know, like something on the news, maybe, a girl had been kidnapped or whatever, that might have added to this overall, like the film working so well and becoming such a, such an iconic thing. But also it's kind of seeing it through different eyes. Both of us have sat here and, I'm very aware that we're two white males, and we talked about Donald Sutherland a lot. Where if it's a female critic, maybe the Julie Christie character is someone that they gravitate towards and can offer a whole new meaning on her character that I hadn't seen before. I think that I always try and look for someone that's not me.
That's cool. Yeah. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, because I know how I feel. The first time, like I said, 3.5, I wasn't blown away. But the second time, something was niggling at me a little bit more. Yeah. Whereas if I read someone that's like, this is the best film ever made, I'm still going to be like, it's a 4 to me.
Right. Yeah.
So, but
that's
I do love reading about film.
Yeah. I guess it does. Well, it's important for many reasons, but yeah, I guess because, like, for one, you might not understand the context of a film unless you read a criticism of it from that time period that it came out. And then also just different perspectives. Because everybody has a different perspective, and it is important to see things through different people's eyes. Yeah, definitely. I do the same thing with films that I've made, like, and it's weird because I'm only able to do it. I probably could do it beforehand, but sometimes I'm only able to do it when I send someone a link. It's like I almost don't even need, like, when I send somebody something I've made and I want to get their opinion on it before I put it out there. Yeah. I almost don't even need to know what they think about it. I'm just able to kind of see it from their point of view as soon as I send them the link. Yeah. Like if I make something, especially, because I'm only going to do that with people that I know pretty well. So, like, if I've written something or made something and I send it to you before I send it to anyone else, I kind of already know. I'm already able to look at it from a news perspective, because then I can watch it and pretend that you're watching it. Yeah. Or reading it, and I'm like, see it from a new perspective already, and already I'm like trying to make changes. Yeah. Because I'm now reading it or watching it from your point of view, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's the beauty of watching movies, right? Because as a filmmaker, you're only really allowed to use your own experiences. That's the way to make it authentic. You can't kind of borrow somebody else's, and you can make films that aren't personal, but like for the, there's things in there that are important to you. Whereas a film viewer, you can read someone else's point of view and see a film differently.
Yeah. But do you think does that kind of automatically happen sometimes though? Like a film that you've watched a bunch of times and you like, and then you invite someone over, or you show it to your wife
Yeah.
for the first time. Are you already watching it from a new point of view because somebody else is in the room?
Yeah, I think that you I don't know, you're trying to anticipate how they would feel, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely the same. I think that's, yeah, I think we've spoken about when we go to the cinema, I'm always kind of anxious as to what Chelsea's feeling. Like, is she bored? Is she enjoying it as much as me? You know, are there things, you know, that the way the camera moves, is she kind of, you know, getting the same feeling that I am because of that? You know, it's hard to, switch off from that point of view. And I guess as a filmmaker, that's even worse because there's things in there that you've put in there purposefully. And if someone doesn't get it, you're like, okay, you're missing the point. You know, you're missing something in there that I purposefully did for you to see.
Yeah. Movies.
Interpretations, dude. Art. It's a beautiful thing.
Art, dude.
So talking of art, what are we going to be watching next week?
So next week, I'm switching it up on you.
Oh, gosh.
We had talked ahead of time, and I told Lewis we were going to watch Lamb.
Yeah.
The A24 film, but I changed my mind.
Uh-oh.
And he has no idea what I picked for realsies.
Big gulp. Yeah.
Did you already watch Lamb?
I haven't watched Lamb yet, no.
Okay. We'll maybe watch Lamb some other time.
Yeah.
I decided to pick a film from 2023.
Ooh.
You ready?
I'm ready.
It's Ari Aster, Beau is Afraid.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, came out earlier this year.
Yeah.
Didn't do super great, but Ari Aster is I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
Ari Aster. He obviously made some of the most iconic horror movies of the last decade.
Yeah.
With Hereditary and Midsummer. Hereditary being like one of the most successful probably and talked about horror films of recent memory. His film Beau is Afraid, which I haven't caught up with yet and didn't do super great at the box office this year. So probably a much longer and much more dense film than Lamb. So sorry, but
no, don't be sorry. That sounds awesome.
I had picked Lamb because my cousin Seth, who is an artist, musician in a band called Light the Fire, and has also been a big influence on my film taste, recommended Lamb, but then he's also been doing an A24 rewatch lately, and he had already recommended Beau is Afraid as well, but I texted him. I was like, "Hey, which one should I pick here? Like, what's better?" And he's like, "Definitely Beau is Afraid." And I was like, "Okay, let's do that."
Sweet. Okay, great.
And I think I'm more hyped for that one.
Yeah.
Too, so
that sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't catch it either, so I'm excited to watch it because I'm always interested in Ari Aster.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio, and you can follow us individually on Letterboxd. Branden is at Selman Scope, and I am at Walker Lewis 3007 to keep up with what we've been watching. We also have all our back episodes streaming on all good podcast platforms. So please leave us a rating and review. So we know if you like the film, or if you didn't, or what you would pick for us to watch in the future. Join us next week for Beau is Afraid. Until then, though, thank you so much for being here, and we hope to see you next Sunday for more Film Church Radio. The only thing left to say is, are you a Christian, Branden?
I don't know. I'm kind to animals and children.
St. Nicholas of this church is the patron saint of scholars and children. An interesting combination, don't you think?
Definitely.
Amen.
Amen.